Welcome back. Welcome in. This is Country Roads Confidential at earsports.com, part of the Paramount Podcast Network. I am Mike Casazza, shuffling the cards in the Big 12. Teams in and out, divisions in. Trying to make sense of this all. I welcome in Chris Anderson. Chris, we're going to try to have a conversation today and ask questions that have no answers. And not only do they have no answers, the options of not having answers almost outnumber the questions. So this ought to be very confusing and very entertaining. It does seem like the Big 12 is going to look different before too long. This might be the final season of a 10 team, and I don't know if it's going to be 12 or 14 after that, but that's kind of why we're here today. Thumbnail sketch me all the plates that are spinning on the table in front of us and what this is going to look like maybe when everything stops and settles.
Well, so the first plate was that the four new Big 12 teams are going to come in 2023. I think that was what a lot of people assumed. That was the plan. A little bit more confirmation recently, nothing official. I think obviously for contractual reasons, there's not going to be official word from the Big 12, but Cincinnati, BYU, UCF, and Houston apparently coming in 2023, which with Texas and Oklahoma still saying publicly that they're not leaving until 2025 when the contract's up. Obviously, that's still up in the air. Are they going? Are they staying? If they go, how much are they paying to leave? If they're staying, or is the Big 12 truly going to completely reorganize their entire schedule, their setup with them for 2 years and then change it all again after that? And that led to, divisions. You got to have divisions because you want to have a conference championship game. The Big 12 was allowed to have a conference championship game without divisions because they played a true round robin. But with 14 teams, they were required to have divisions, except at another plate, the NCAA might pass a rule that says, actually, you don't. You can just pick your two best teams. And so now the Big 12's not, and they're waiting, except there's going to be a huge fight coming. A huge fight. Because how do you determine who plays what schedule and then just pick your best two teams? Like if a team plays, I'm just going to, let's not name names, just say they get to play like the five worst teams in the Big 12 and they end up going, 9-1 or whatever in the conference. Is that fair if another team has to play like the top five teams and end up going 7-3? How do you determine which one's the best one? Do you go off rankings? Do you go off record? Do you go off that? Who gets to play Oklahoma before they leave? Who gets to play Texas before they leave? Do you get a home and home? Do you get this? It's going to be a disaster. There's going to be a lot of pissing matches. And then Texas and Oklahoma may just end up saying, you know what? Screw it. Here's some money. We're out. So was that enough of a summary?
That was a thumbnail. Where do we begin? Let's start at the legislative. Actually, not even legislative. Let's start at the litigious stage here too. I think that Bob Bowlesby's first gift to his replacement is to have Oklahoma and Texas out the door and out of the new Big 12 commissioner's hair. I just think that's only right to start with that. If you have somebody who comes in and their priority is figure out what to do with these two lame ducks, that's not fair for anybody, and it makes a TV negotiation pretty difficult. I just think that would be a really good thing to get done. Like there's no future here with those two. The last thing you want is them ripping off a couple conference titles in football or basketball or even the other sports that are still very important. I just want to get that done and get what you can out of it. Do you want to do this in court and spend and cost yourself a lot of money, or do you want to try to backroom this and get some ADs and chancellors together and say, what's the number? Get some lawyers in there with some billable hours and say, all right, we're not doing this forever. Let's figure this out. I would really feel much more comfortable about hiring a replacement for Bowlesby if that was done. That just seems like the first block. However, if it doesn't happen and they're just kind of ornery about this and they say we're not paying a leave, we're just going to finish out our contract, we're going to be good employees, then you have a mess. If they do have 14, which is fine because I think you have to get Houston and BYU and UCF, and I always blank on the fourth one, Chris, Cincinnati. Get them in. before someone else does. So just do that. That's fine. I don't care. 14. Are you division or anti-division?
I am pro division.
Now,
And
in all sports or in just football?
well, let's put it this way. If you are a West Virginia fan, I think you should be pro division because I believe that gives them a better chance of competing for a conference championship than non-divisions. Am I crazy in thinking that?
No, I think you're absolutely right, which is one reason that I think for as long as Texas and Oklahoma are in, you are not going to see one division. You're going to see two divisions, and you're going to see them in the same division because the Big 12 does not want Texas and Oklahoma playing in Dallas the next couple of years for the Big 12 title. That may not happen, by the way. Texas has something to do, and maybe Oklahoma does too, but that's just a nightmare for them. So I think you'll see probably for as long as those two are here, you'll probably see divisions. That would be my hunch. I've heard that from people before, and that just seems vindictive and petty enough that it makes sense. But I'm with you.
Absolutely. And it's funny, I saw Dennis Dodd. I guess he's our coworker at CBS, kind of, however that all works. But he put in divisions of what he thought it might look like. And we'll talk about the north-south versus east-west angle of this in a second because I have some thoughts on that. But he had Oklahoma and Texas in opposite divisions, and I went exactly where you went. I said, absolutely, the Big 12 will not let that happen. I mentioned fighting and a big fight coming and pissing matches and all this stuff. That's what it's going to be over. Because I am 100% with you that they will do everything they can to make sure Oklahoma and Texas are in the same division so that at worst, as far as the Big 12 is concerned, only one of them is in the Big 12 championship game.
And they should.
As they should. Exactly. I would too. If I were in charge of the Big 12, I would do everything I can to make sure that those two teams were in the same division. And I guarantee you that those two teams are going to do everything they can to make sure that they're not. Except when it comes to voting, they're going to be outnumbered 8-2. Like I'm imagine the new teams are not going to have a say in the matter, but the other teams they're going to say, screw you guys, y'all are in the same division, and then everybody's going to fight over who's not in that division anymore, because then that's going to be a fight, and then eventually, again, I've thought the longer this goes, obviously the worse I feel about it, but I have felt for a long time that Texas and Oklahoma are going to eventually say, screw it, here's some money, we're out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the event. I still think that's the eventual outcome here. I don't think there will ever be a 14-team Big 12 because I think they'll leave before the season. But again, that's going to have to start, formulating here soon. You can't go too much longer. And we see that kind of stuff typically get announced in the summer anyway, or start leaking out in the summer. Mm-hmm. So I think we'll start getting an answer on that in the next couple months.
Media day circus for sure. I don't think they want to deal with that. So that would be something that I think you might see reconciled June, July, maybe, just because. I have this, I can't believe I found this, but just something I have jotted down from, it looks like September. This makes sense to me. In a division, West Virginia, Cincinnati, UCF. So West Virginia with two new schools, plus Kansas State, Iowa State, right? I like that. And then the other part is Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, Baylor, TCU, BYU, and Houston. So two new ones in each division. And geographically, that makes some sense to me, right? Those all fit. Suppose those schools do come in 23, right? And suppose that we're right and that Texas and Oklahoma end up in the same division. Well, now you have an imbalanced split there, right?
Right.
Which is why I don't think you're going to see divisions as long as Oklahoma and Texas are here. It would just be weird to me to hey, come in for these 2 years and you're in divisions, and then we're gonna mess it up because I just don't think they're going to be Oklahoma and Texas. I don't think they're going to be in separate divisions. It'd be very easy to have the 6 and 6 I just explained, Texas in one, Oklahoma in the other. But then you're giving them a chance to play for the championship, and I just don't think that's a great idea. And what they would rather avoid, there's money involved in that too. So don't do that, which means then you have like a weird 6 and 8 split, which you're not going to do. So why even have division? So if that NCAA thing does happen, and I would imagine that the Big 12 is behind this, then that's something they can do and make sense of things in the short term. Long term, don't know. There's nothing, however, that says you can't have a single division without repeat opponents. So the Mountaineers, for example, would probably be very interested in having something regular with Cincinnati and UCF, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's just say that every year they play Cincinnati, UCF, Iowa State, and then they gotta take one on the chin. They gotta go to Texas Tech, right? But every year you have a crossover like that. That's four of your. I guess you're gonna have what, 9. So then you find a way to get the other ones in there. And you don't play everybody every year. You can't do that anymore. But you could certainly scheme a way where you have some familiarity and some rivalries and some regular things every year to do that. Like there's the divisional thing, it comes easier. You play everybody in your division, but why can't you have something like a divisional setup just in one single file conference?
I'm with you. And the answer is going to be money. It's going to be pettiness. But I think that's, I don't know. I keep, like I said, I keep looking at these divisions and the non-divisions and how that's going to work. Who did you say that if they did no divisions, who is West Virginia's all-time opponent, or however you want to phrase that?
I just figured 4 in my head. Give them 2 new ones, Cincinnati and then UCF, right? Because they're logical for geography for Cincinnati, UCF maybe even as well. And then Iowa State, that's the rival now. And then, listen, you got to take one road trip every year. That's going to be tough. Texas Tech.
Okay. I like it. I think that I was going to say, if I'm looking at that and Oklahoma, Texas are out, the only one I would consider changing was Texas Tech and TCU. But even then, there's obviously other moving parts with other teams having to have all-time opponents. But I would go with that as well. I think either TCU or Texas Tech. But I like the other 3 for sure.
Yeah, and you can do that. Like, I mean, that's what's so fascinating about this too, is that again, you can have divisions if you want to. They say you don't have to have divisions. It doesn't mean you can't have divisions. But also you can keep some of the values, the qualities, the traits of conference play split into divisions without divisions. Like you can have those crossovers. And that's what's cool about having divisions, is that you're going to have these regular matchups every year you can look forward to. And even like the SEC, you're going to have that one regular crossover that you have too. So you can do stuff like that without having that divisional split in there too. So and that's going to be an interesting, entertaining dynamic in how they do that too. We kind of both agree that you're never going to have 14 though, right?
Agreed.
It seems so weird to have a 12-team conference though, like just a single file conference. That's what makes me think that it's not going to happen. Like just like, oh, we can't do that. It's too strange. So what? Make it work.
Oh boy.
Draft. Yeah. We covered the other day, but did you happen to see how some of the new Big 12 teams performed?
Yeah, Houston had a nice day, or at least a couple early picks. I felt like Cincinnati had a couple nice early picks. I didn't check on BYU.
Cincinnati had 9 players drafted.
Yeah, I was gonna say I remember Cincinnati had a couple early picks too, and then obviously there was talk about Ritter at the quarterback, and he slid a little bit, but there's talk of him having first round grades and teams really liking him. And I mean, obviously all the quarterbacks slid more than many people thought, but Houston had what? Did they end up with a first, or was it like the first pick of the second round or something like that?
I think it was the first, wasn't it? I know they had 3 guys drafted.
Yeah.
Cincinnati had 9, Oklahoma had 7.
Shoot. Oh yeah. So the kid from Houston, the defensive end, was the first pick of the second round, Logan Hall.
That's right. Yeah.
So man. Yeah. Good. They're all gone, right? So conference will be easier.
Yeah. And then just finally to put a bow on this thing, Chris. Do you think that the structure for football will be the same in basketball?
No.
Yeah, I think you can have a different there too, because I think home and home is very important for competition in basketball. And also just for the league and the appeal of it too. You can't have home and homes obviously in the same season, but I could see divisions of basketball making sense, because I think that's something you may want to consolidate travel a little bit too, because you're playing more games and traveling more. Football is just different too. So you could have a one division for football and then divisions for basketball. Could something that crazy actually happen?
You're asking me to believe if the heads of all the Big 12 schools can come together and not fight and make an intelligent decision with each other. Answer is
Yes,
no.
that's what I'm asking you. You say no. Yeah. So
I think it should, but I don't think it's very likely.
yeah, and this is another thing too. Like, I don't want to say the sooner Bowlesby's out, the better, because again, maybe this is one of the last things he does too, because this ultimately comes down to what the schools want. Because again, the commissioner is I don't want to say puppet, but he's kind of the puppet. Like, he works for the presidents and chancellors, and what they want is going to be influenced by the coaches and the athletic directors. But still, they're going to have a welfare in mind, I'm sure, of their sports and their student athletes too. So if you look at that, I mean, would you? It's just hard to think about a single division in basketball where I guess you would play everybody once. So now we're saying there's only going to be 12 teams. Now you're at 11. Are they playing 22 conference games? Are we getting there? No way, right?
That's a lot. I feel like nobody else plays that many, right?
It's just 20.
Okay.
And then you figure between that and having a couple of invitationals you have to have. I mean, if you play 20, you're at 20. If you play 20 conference games, you're at 22 because you have the Big East and the SEC invitationals. And then you only got 9 other games you can schedule. You like to get about that many home games if you could, right?
Right. Yeah.
And you're playing, some other multi-team event in Orlando or Puerto Rico or something like that. That's 3 more games. I got 6 games. That's tough. That's going to be hard to do. So I would be surprised if it goes above 20, which makes me think they're going to do. Now, can you get to 20 games with divisions? Maybe. Probably.
I think I got a solution, Mike. West Virginia just only plays Baylor and Kansas once each year.
They'd be okay with that, I'm guessing. Can you imagine that? They don't have to go to Fog every year.
Yeah.
Be a while before they get a win, I guess, but keep writing about that every year. Lots of questions, again, lots of options, far more of those than answers, but that's why we're here. I guess we can't unravel the ball, but we can just like hold the ball in our hands and say, this is quite a yarn they've spun together, and I don't know how they're going to unravel it, but hopefully we added some insight, maybe some solutions there. Any housekeeping, Chris?
No, I think that's it. We're going to have a couple more podcasts up later in the week. Again, got to wait and see the what happens with the roster. I got one more day, or tonight at midnight, I suppose, that it'll be the end, and we'll go from there. I think maybe knock on wood, cross your fingers, roster stay basically intact before that deadline, and then get focused on summer official visits. That visit list is getting lengthy for June. The camp circuit, that schedule's been set for a while. They've already got a lot of kids saying they're coming up. So June's going to be busy month. And then everybody thought, it's a dead period at the end of June and early July. And guess what? That's when half the kids in the recruiting class decide to make their commitment. So don't sleep on July either.
Yeah, I'm going to hate to leave you there. Got some things happening, but we'll see.
You just wait till I go on vacation during the first official visit weekend. We'll see.
Yeah. We'll talk offline.
Yeah.
Until then, I'm Mike Casaza.
And I'm Chris Anderson.
We'll talk to you later.